What's up guys, it's your favorite Kiwi coach, and give me 6 months of your time, I'll give you the best golf swing of your life. So welcome back to the channel. In this particular video, if you ever wondered about flattening or steepening, as well as the use cases about those and the torques that actually cause them, this is the perfect video for you. Let's go ahead and jump in. But before we get into the video, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, and that is Kiwi Golf Japan. If you're too busy or you just can't make it out to our locations for lessons, Kiwi Golf Japan is the membership site for you. With over 230 plus videos of golf instruction, we have everything on the site you could possibly want. So go ahead and check out that link down below, and now let's get into the video. So I'm sure 95% of you guys out there already know what flattening and steepening of the club shaft are, but for everyone out there who doesn't, don't worry, I'm gonna explain to you guys really quickly. So flattening is going to be a twisting motion like this, so the club head is moving towards the ground in this direction. So from my view, if I was facing a camera, it's moving in a clockwise rotation. Now steepening is also moving towards the ground, however, it's moving in a counterclockwise rotation. Again, I'm looking at a clock right now. In my view, it's moving in a counterclockwise rotation. Just for you guys out there that have dyslexia like me and get confused, that's that. So those are the basic definitions of flattening and steepening. They're both used throughout the golf swing, good and bad. So we're gonna be talking about that later, but now let's get into the actual thing that causes these to happen. So when a lot of you guys think about steepening or flattening, you typically think that a certain movement earlier than that is causing that to happen. And you can absolutely argue that, but we're gonna go even a layer deeper than that, and we're gonna talk about forces and torques. So when we talk about a torque is a force that causes a twisting motion, right? That would be a torque. So if I actually kind of go like this, that would be a torque, right? That's twisting the club shaft. So I'm using a force and directing in a certain way to cause that twisting, right? If I go like this, which would be the steepening, I'm also using a force directing in a certain way to create that twisting, right? That's like the bare bone basic information that's actually causing this to happen. So now that you guys have the basic understanding of a torque, let's talk about the flattening torque for our first one. So what is this? So as I get up to the top of my swing, typically this is when most people are talking about flattening. Now it does occur earlier in the swing, which we'll talk about later. But for most people, they have the image in transition. So if I can create like a little arrow that looks something like this on the grip end, that would actually flatten the club shaft, right? So I'm using a force directed in a certain way to flatten the club shaft in this case, or just twist the club shaft. You could think about it in that way. So when it comes to the flattening torque, that is exactly what's happening. So I can have a very small arrow, right, that have a little bit of flattening. I can have a very massive one that have a massive amount of flattening. The main thing is, that is going to be kind of the image I would like you guys to have, that little arrow, when it comes to the flattening torque. So now let's start getting into some use cases of flattening. Like, when do we actually use this in the golf swing? Now, when we talk about use cases, I'm going to be talking about feel use cases, which is going to help us kind of fix a certain issue. And then I'm also going to talk about real, like actual times you flatten the club shaft. So let's start getting into the real first. We're going to start from takeaway, or excuse me, setup to takeaway. And let's talk about the first flattening torque. All right, so the real use case when it comes to flattening is going to be from position 1 to position 2. So as I set up to the golf ball and I move the club head to the takeaway position, I've actually flattened the club head or torqued the club head in a flattening fashion from setup to here. Now, the amount that I have torqued it is really difficult to kind of measure because you need like a measuring device to actually measure torque. But the way I think about it in my mind is, okay, how much did I feel like I twisted the club shaft, right? So maybe this would be like as much as I could twist it. This would be just a little bit that I could twist it. How much am I twisting and my feeling to the takeaway? And then if the club head in my camera is aligned to the hands, then to me, that would be the correct amount, right? So when I'm talking about a real torque that's happening, this is actually happening in the takeaway section. You're flattening it. Now, when it comes to measuring it, again, difficult to do, so kind of just use the parameters that I just showed you there. But that is a real flattening torque that happens in the golf swing. Now, not only do we have real flattening torques, let's talk about some feel flattening torques that could help you fix certain issues. So when we talk about field flattening torques, typically we're talking about it in the framework of fixing a specific motion. It doesn't mean that we're actually torquing the club in a flattening fashion. It's just that we're trying to feel that. So when we talked about the takeaway, that would be real because that's actually happening, right? However, let's talk about the top of swing. Let's say you're one of these people that's steep in the club shaft in transition too much. Well, I could have a feeling like I'm having a flattening torque, and actually the club shaft could still just lower down like this. So even though I'm feeling like I'm actually having a flattening torque, I'm not really doing it. But this is another use case where you can use the flattening torque. You're not actually in real doing it, right? You wouldn't see on a graph that you're using a flattening torque. It's just the feeling of that for you guys to help counteract some of this is still a very useful thing to do, right? So that would be a feel torque. Now, another use case scenario would also be on the downswing. Let's say from this position right here, P5, into P6, you're just moving that club head way too far out towards the golf ball. Another feel flattening torque that we could have is from this position into position 6. So maybe we imagine an arrow that looks something on this line right here, and we're trying to get the club head to feel like we're flattening it. But realistically, we actually just move the club head more so in this fashion right here, which would actually still mean that we're steepening the club head, right? So we would still have a steepening torque, but we felt like we flattened it just to counteract our excessive steepening torque that we had before. So another use case scenario where you can use a flattening torque. So as you can see, from the start, there is actual times where you really have a flattening torque in the swing, right? You're actually flattening the club shaft. And there's other times where you might feel like you're flattening, but you're really not. Both of them are use case scenarios, right? Because you can actually use them as feelings as real as well, and they're gonna be very helpful. So I hope you get that point. Let's start getting into the steepening torque. All right, that's it for you guys on YouTube, but before you guys click off, let me give you some quick wrap-up points. So when it comes to steepening, that's going to be the counterclockwise rotation if I'm looking at a clock from my view. If it comes to flattening, that would be the clockwise rotation like that. When it comes to a torque is a force that causes a twisting action, right? So if I actually force the club this way, that would cause a twisting action with the club shaft, which would be a torque, and in that case, that would be the flattening torque. If I actually had the arrow going this way, that would be a force that causes a twisting motion, which again would be a torque, but now it's going to be a steepening torque. That's pretty much where we got for you guys on YouTube. If you guys want to watch the whole video where we tell you about the use case scenarios for all of these, definitely go make sure to sign up for the membership site. Other than that, if you guys are struggling with your golf swings, check out our Kiwi Coach 6-month program. There'll be a link down below for that as well. We just launched the online 6-month program, so if you can't make it out to our locations, check that out as well. Other than that, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next video.